Hello and welcome, I'm Peter and this is the Scottish Flute Channel, the channel for all things traditional flute and whistle playing in Scotland. And another action-packed weekend for me. It's been the Aberdeen Flute Fling event we're into November now in 2023, and it's been great fun. And one of the highlights is that I've finally managed to get this man here, George Ormiston, to come and have a chat. I've been wanting to do this for a while, so I'm really interested in where this conversation goes, because George has got a fascinating history, which we'll hopefully delve into just now. Okay, welcome George.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Well, they're late nights over this flute fling, I have to say. And this is pretty early, up at 7 o'clock in the morning, so yeah, but fine, really enjoying it. It's such a great event. I recommend it to anybody playing the flute, and not just in Scotland, it could be in England or somewhere else. At this event, we've got someone from Gothenburg.
Yeah, we had a couple of people from Sweden over yesterday. Yeah. So yeah, we do outreach.
Yeah.
So it's been good. I've been hoping you've come to some of the flute fling events for a little while, and it's good that you've managed to come up to this one. Hopefully see you at more of them in future.
Yes.
But anyway, so a lot of people will know your name from the fact that you're a flute maker, but I want to delve back into the past a bit and understand how you came to be involved in this whole traditional music community, I suppose we could call it. Yeah.
Well, if we rewind to 1967...
I remember 1967.
Barely. I was on holiday with the family. I would be a 16-year-old then. And we were on holiday down in Torquay. And in those days there were lots of second-hand shops. I was already playing the guitar because my older brothers all played music. My sister sang. My father was a piper. And my mother was a good singer. So there was all this music always around. Uncles had all played in, a couple of uncles who played in an orchestra, classical music. So there was a lot of music in the family, basically. And I was passing by this second-hand shop and I saw this really weird-looking instrument, and I didn't know what it was made from. It was completely black. And I went in and I asked the shopkeeper, "What's that in the window?" He said, "Oh, it's a flute, I think." So I said, "Can I see it?" I hadn't a clue. I just looked at it because I didn't know how it functioned. Anyway, it transpired it was a Rudland Rose flute.
Okay, which of course we all know about today. But
that's right.
Yeah.
And I said, "How much is it?" And he said £4 10 shillings.
Which was quite a lot in 1967.
It wasn't really. I think it was a week's wages.
Okay.
Basically, as an apprentice. And I'll come back to that in a minute, the engineering. And I thought, I don't know, I was just drawn to this flute, and I picked it up, and then eventually I went back. At that time, the family were living in Coventry, where I had just left school and started an apprenticeship in engineering. So I basically took it back, and my eldest brother said, "You should come down to the pub. There's a session on in a pub in Coventry." I didn't know what a session was. I didn't really know what a pub was. I can tell you a lot about them now, both subjects. Anyway, so I went along there, and as luck would have it, or as it is, there was a chap there called Finbar Fury.
Oh wow!
Who was a piper, and he took a bit of a shine to us, and he said, "Why don't you after this session come along and I'll show you about that flute you've got," and so he taught me whistle on Sunday mornings.
Okay. Yeah.
So I became a proficient enough whistle player, but it was flute that really attracted me.
Yeah.
And that was the start of it.
Okay, because a lot of people, myself included, went the other way. We learnt the whistle first, and then, well, I want more. I'll go on to the flute. But you were kind of you'd always had your eye on the flute.
I think in those days when an adult, and Finbar was older than me, obviously, very much older than me, and So he said, I'll teach you the whistle, then you can just transfer all that onto the flute, which was true apart from the blowing, the embouchure. But it was easy. The transformation was quite easy.
Yes. And then you can develop the embouchure piece as you go.
Yeah. You see, because in those days, we're talking about flute fling here, and you get the best of tutors, and it moves around the group or the groups, and there was nothing like that then.
Yeah.
There was nobody.
Yeah.
I think initially when I moved back to Scotland at the age of 17, I think there was only myself and Kenny Hadden who were the flute players then in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Until Kathleen McConnell moved to Edinburgh.
Yes.
It wasn't a popular instrument anymore.
No.
This had all gone by the way.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Roy Williamson did play flute a little bit, and he is recorded with the Corries on a couple of tracks that I know of. But that was just another string to his bow. but he did so many other things.
That's right.
Yeah,
he was a multi-instrumentalist, and he was quite good in the flute. He got a good sound. In fact, he ended up with a flute that I had. And he played that. I think it was a friend of my mother's, and her friend's husband had died, and he left his flute, so I ended up with them. And I took that. Well, first I took it to Finbar Fury, then Finbar passed it on to be more correct. Finbar then passed it on to Roy Williamson.
Yeah. So how did your so that's how you got into it. So how did your playing develop then? How did you do that?
I came in contact with an organisation in Malta called Tory Earn, which is the Irish teaching organisation. They put on concerts as well, but it's very much about teaching children how to play tunes. And of course it was all Irish music then, so I got into Irish music because I was brought up. My singing teacher was, I can't remember the lady's name, a really well-known Scottish singer back in the 60s. Anyway, either way. At the school that I went to in Ayrshire. Things were a bit different down south. It was more, there wasn't much of an obvious Scottish enclave or a pub or anything like that. So whereas there were plenty of Irish pubs and there was a great big St Brendan's Centre, which was a massive centre. Lovingly known as the Kerrymans, because it was 3 Kerry men that started it up, and there was a Ceilidh band in there, and there were 4 flute players in this Ceilidh band. I couldn't believe it. I've never seen so many flute players anyway. So I got talking to the chap that ran it, who was a accordion player, and he says, "Come on and sit in with us." And it wouldn't have mattered if you'd made a mistake, you'd never have heard it.
You'd be drowned out.
That's right. And it just developed.
But it's a safe environment in that case.
It was. It was a good one for just practicing, if you like, in a way, kind of thing. Good for the timing, because this was for dancing. So it wasn't loose. No, that's good. Personally, I've come into this through the dancing, through Ceilidh dancing. So I'm really I want to have that timing that dancers can dance to. So and I think a lot of the music comes from the dance tradition. So I think it's really important to understand that. Yeah,
it's good. Yeah. So that's how you got into playing with a band. Where did it progress from there?
Well, as I just mentioned, they had these competitions, and it was various levels. There would be a sort of level like Birmingham, Coventry, where I was living at that time. And then if you won one of those, then you moved on to another level, and then eventually to what they called the All Britain level then.
Okay.
And if you came first or second in the All Britain, that qualified you to play in the All Ireland, which was kind of like the World Championship of Irish music, if you will. And so I was 17 at the time, and the seniors were 18 and above.
Okay.
But the leader of the Ceilidh band said, because I was looking for the room for the 16 to 18 or something like that, and he said, "No, you're not in there." And I said, "Where am I?" He said, "Oh, you're in with the seniors." So he put me in with the seniors, and anyway, I won the competition. So
Brilliant.
that allowed me to pass on to the next level, and then from that I ended up in the opera and got a place there as well, in both the whistle and the flute. But I had never really departed from Scottish music because obviously my father was a bagpiper,
Right.
was playing. My brothers were playing Scots music, so it was always there.
Okay, because that must have been quite hard because in Coventry, again, not the
Yeah.
Scottish enclave, but a
Yeah.
lot of Irish influence coming
Uh-huh.
through Birmingham and the likes.
Mm-hmm.
So it must have been quite difficult to maintain that view of Scottishness or Scottish music.
I don't think it was a difficulty here because I was just so enamoured by this whole Irish thing. In fact, I think it was maybe just about 21, no, 22 I think, I moved to Ireland.
Okay.
I lived in Dublin for a year and then, which I didn't like. And sorry. And then I moved to Cork, which was just
I wonder what he says about Aberdeen later.
I moved to Cork City,
Yeah.
and it was just fantastic. Absolutely, I
Okay.
loved the music. Loved
Right.
it. That was County Cork, we should say, not Kerry, where there was the slides and polkas, but it was just great. And there were people there like Jackie Daly, Seamus Gray, Jimmy Crowley in the session down in the Phoenix Bar.
Okay.
So you were in really good company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And how long were you down in Cork for?
A year.
A year.
Yeah,
Okay.
a year as well. But I learned, and that was interesting because, sort of rewinding back to being in Birmingham, Coventry, you had all these tunes you were learning in these areas, these cities, and then I moved up to South Queensferry from Coventry, or the family did, and I went into Sandy Bells and other places, but it was mainly Sandy Bells. So then you were picking up the tunes that existed in Edinburgh.
Okay, yes.
But being a West Coast man, I like to go through to Glasgow. So I was going through to Glasgow and hearing into the Vicky Bar and places like that and hearing the tunes there.
Yes.
So in the meantime, I had picked up 5 different lots of tunes from different places kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then moving to Dublin again, it was different. Then moving to Cork, it was different. And then I moved from Cork to Leeds, and it was different there again.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of tunes. And
Yes,
when we played in
correct,
sessions, people would always say, "Where did you get that tune?" And one I have to say this about in Kerry, because I had a girlfriend from Kerry at the time, and went there and played with some relations of her family who only played in the house. They weren't drinkers, they didn't go out, they played in the house, so it was house session. And I'd play in there, and I learned tunes that they learned. And some of them came from an Ilian piper who had died.
Okay.
And but as it was in the Irish tradition then, they weren't written down. I mean, there was a Neil's, and I think that was largely it, collection. So these tunes, and I remember playing in particular a polka, the Mistletoe, and I never played it anywhere that people knew it. Nobody knew it. It came from this guy. So there was only literally a handful of people that knew some of these tunes. And I thought then, that's a shame that this dies, kind of thing. These good tunes might be lost. And I thought the same. I was already thinking then, this was into the 70s, and I was already thinking then, really, it would be good if somebody made decent flutes, because I had never had the Rutland Rose, somebody ran off with it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, somebody from Sheffield ran off with it.
Have you got the serial number?
No, I didn't think of like that in those days.
No.
So it's gone. But I was quite keen, and yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So, at what stage did you think about then making flutes then?
I moved to Leeds in '74 from Cork, and I was working in engineering again, as I was in Cork, and I just thought, you've got all these machines here, and you just stand there with the flute in your hand, and you think, I was making artificial limbs in this place.
Oh wow, okay.
And computerised, I mean, it wasn't a simple business. So I thought, the skills you've got, there's something wrong if you can't make a flute. But what came before that, really, in a sense, or at that time, was people had the flute was very popular in Leeds. There was a lot of good flute players in Leeds, and Leeds wasn't a stone's throw from Manchester, from Liverpool, really. So I started getting repairs from all over the place. People knew you could repair them, and the word went out, kind of thing, because there weren't really people repairing. And some of them, a tenon would be broken off. So you'd have to, what we call, counterbore into the joint, and then sink a new tenon, fit a new tenon in there. So these were repairs you could only do in an engineering workshop. Really.
Well, before we delve too much into that, I also wanted to hear about the musicality from when you were in Leeds onwards, because you were in a band or formed a band?
That's right.
Or several bands, maybe.
One of the, things move on with bands, they don't last too long. Usually the killing point is when they go into a recording studio.
Okay. Well, I haven't been as far as that, so.
and it's not just with folk groups.
No.
Anyway, either way, yes, there was 4 of us who used to meet up in a pub called The Regent, well, and other pubs as well. So that was an Irish pub, and it was a session pub, but we also went to folk clubs.
Okay.
And having listened to the Corries at an early age through my brothers and been interested in Scottish folklore, I was quite keen to play in a folk group. And so we sat, and one time when we were sitting there between tunes, we said, why don't we just start a band? So that was
that's how it starts. Somebody always says, why don't we start a band?
And it was interesting. So it was basically 3 Englishmen and myself. And I said, well, Iona's a good name.
Had you been to Iona at that point?
No, I hadn't. I knew where it was.
Yeah.
No, so anyway, that was the name here. And one of the reasons for adopting that name, it's only 4 letters.
Okay.
So the first, the LP that came out, it was an LP in those days that came out, it was, they're quite big. And all I had was, it was black, gold and red. And it was in Celtic, it was from the Book of Kells, the lettering, Iona. So it was a shocker for a folk thing. Nobody had ever seen anything as audacious as that.
Right, okay.
It was usually hills and fields, or a fiddle and a whatever, anyway, either way.
I'm still trying to get a hold of these recordings, but anyway, carry on.
So that was the start of it, and then at that time, two of the chaps they had just finished studying at Leeds Uni, having come down from South Shields, and then the other one was actually, he'd finished as well, and he was working at a library, some kind of special library. We don't know how special because it was covered by the, what's it called, the Act.
The Official Secrets Act.
The Official Secrets
Really?
Act, yeah. So, and it's somewhere, all they can say, if you're looking for it, all they can say is it's somewhere out by Knaresborough, Harrogate way. Sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, either way, he still had a job. The other 2 were just jobbing kind of thing. I was quite happy just to stop working in engineering and play music. So that was what we did then. And the other chap, the librarian, which is what he was, packed in his job as well. So we went on tour.
Wow.
And we had some really good agents in various countries. Which was really good.
Brilliant. And how long did that continue for?
That lasted for a number of years. But I also realised pretty soon that you can't live off playing with one band. And that was the way it was in those days. You couldn't be seen with another band. That was kind of taboo.
Okay. So now today it's a lot of mix and match.
It's just taken as read that you'll be doing something with someone else, whatever. So I joined a Dublin band playing Irish music, because we slowly played Skyman's Jig and a lot of really good pipe tunes in Iona. It moved more and more to a Scottish feel about it, although we still played Irish music as well. And I played with Tara for quite a number of years as well. They weren't keen on it. And there was a clash. I think there was, if I can remember correctly, we had received a tour in the States for 4 weeks with Tara, but at the same time, it was in January, I remember that, it was cold. There was a tour for Iona, also 4 weeks, and that was that was in Europe. So I just thought, well, this is maybe time to pack that in. Then one of them, and it had to be Tara, really.
Yeah. Okay. And are any of the Iona recordings available anywhere?
I don't think they are. And I don't think it. Someone asked me yesterday, did it go onto a CD? I don't think it did. I don't know that for sure, because it was distributed through Celtic Music Distribution Company, and I'm not sure how that is these days, whether it exists, etc. But I would like.
So you got into repairing because you had this engineering background, and how did that develop?
By the time it came to 1978, where I was of no fixed abode, but I happened to be in Germany at the time, and I got the chance to stay somewhere in Bavaria, which is very nice. Lovely beer, and the wine's not bad either. So it just felt right to take that out, because I was more and more thinking, I really need to make flutes. That was the uppermost thing in my mind, was making flutes then.
Right. Okay.
And I had already had several flutes through my hands, had looked at them, and because I was in engineering, I had already made, sadly I don't have one here to show what I'm talking about, but I had already made several reamers, which are what you use to machine the bore of the instrument, and that's what's making the sound. The mouth hole initiates the sound, but the type of sound is really governed largely by that bore. A big hole right up the middle of the flute.
It's not giving away any trade secrets to say that's not a parallel bore.
It's a conical bore, and it's not giving away any trade secrets to say there's about 7 different tapers in it, in case you want to take it off. It's not an easy thing, and you have to make that and make the reamers accordingly, which I did. And then you actually, these are made from what's called silver steel, and then they are hardened in a furnace. And what you do is find someone who knows how to really run a furnace well, because they can be bent with too much heat. So it's just the way it worked out. I just happened to be in Germany, who know quite a thing or two about engineering, and I had taken the reamers with me. And with my wife, but then my girlfriend, who was German and could speak fluent, obviously, we went to a place, an engineering place, and they said, we can harden these. So I got all my reamers hardened in Berlin, West Berlin as it was called then.
Yes, of course.
1980.
Wow.
But I had already been working on it, because we bought a lathe, which is really funny. A lathe is what you make most of it on. And there was a gunsmith had advertised a lathe for sale in the town where we were living. So I went with my girlfriend along, and he showed me, and I could tell straight away, this will be ideal. I was surprised at it, because it was such a great thing. Halfway along the lathe, the motor being up here, was a big brass bush that went through, so this thing hinged. You could unlock it, put it up at 90 degrees, and then use it as a milling machine.
Yes.
Because you could clamp things onto the table, and the table moved that way and that way.
So the table stayed in the whole motor went.
That went up.
Wow.
So it was incredible to get that. And then we moved with that, and to this day I don't remember how we did it, because it took 2 really strong people, young, fit people, I should say then, to lift this lathe. No. And we moved it from Bavaria to Berlin, which is not round the corner, into somebody's living room, into the lounge. That was the workshop. Our lounge is a bit bigger than where you're staying in the flat you're staying in, because it was in the kitchen in the flat next to the cooker. where we were staying initially. And this was deemed maybe not quite health and safety.
No.
With the dust coming into the fried eggs, from the African blackbird. Anyway, whatever.
Hasn't done you any harm whatsoever.
No.
Oh my! But that's fascinating. Yeah, yeah. You use the space that's available to you.
That's right.
Yeah.
It had to happen at all costs.
Yes.
Including life.
Your dedication was straight through there. Yeah. Well, I suppose there's worse woods to be working with.
Not much.
Coca-Cola is quite bad, isn't it?
Yeah, Coca-Cola.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
But so in a very restricted space and environment, you were absolutely dedicated to doing this thing. Yeah. Because that wouldn't have been cheap either, and in terms of the investment to get that lathe, even second hand would have been a significant portion, significant outlay.
That was a lot of money for us. That was a lot of money.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
In fact, my girlfriend was studying, and there was a grant, but it was taken for all your, living.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Bills.
So did you have flutes to measure and compare and see?
I had already done all this.
You'd done that,
I had looked at them, and I had settled on a Rutland rose that I thought really just ticks all the, really. And I was very fortunate because one time when we were, I was still in Iona then, and one time when we were on tour in the UK, I had a couple of days off, so I headed up to Queensferry to see my parents, and then there's not a lot to do really. You can only talk so much about why you haven't shaved and why you're so long.
Why you don't have a proper job. Yes, all the usual parent things. Yes.
So I went into Edinburgh and I went into the music library.
Okay.
And looked at books in there as well and made lots of notes. And it was quite funny because I had understood the tuning of a flute fairly early on I should say there were no books on flute making, violin making, guitar making, you name it, but nothing on flute making. And there was no material to begin with, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So not even drawings, so it's basically measuring as I had done, and I had all the measuring equipment care of the engineering factory that I worked with. I did ask permission, I have to say,
yes.
in case you're listening. Could I do this in my lunch hour?
Yes.
And that was that's when the repairs were carried out.
Yeah. And
all the measuring and the making of reamers, etc. So it was quite it seems a long process when you explain it, but it went really quick with me, and the tuning was a bit of a drawback at the beginning. I wasn't happy the way it was turning out. It just didn't seem to be right for some reason. Then I hit on the idea of how to tune the various tone holes, all of the tone holes, rather than just drilling a hole and getting the right size. There was a better way of doing it. So I hit on this, and I made the tools that you had to have to make this. So the idea was there first of all, and then there was just, if you like, the R&D, the research and development work going on in the head of how to make this. So I made the tools, and it worked a treat, and I was over the moon because it made it a far better flute immediately. Okay. And then when I was in Edinburgh in this library, and I asked one of the assistants, have you got any books on the flute? She said, I think there's one over there. She worked in the music library section. And she pulled out this big black hardback old book from the 19th century. And it was really strange. I just was thumbing through it, and there I saw these tools that I had just made in Berlin.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, and it brought home to me, nothing's original. Somebody's been there before you probably, quite likely. Anyway, either way, it was interesting that you would have to, and I know now, and I've known for a long time, you would have to arrive at that if you're going to make a good flute.
Yes.
And by a good flute as well, you're looking into the future. This is what you do. You become a flute maker. So it has to pay for itself.
But I mean, you're already on record as to explaining how long it takes to actually make the flute from start to finish.
Yeah.
But it's the work involved, I guess, is spread out over a long period of time.
It's spread out. We work in a 6-year. That's not that there's a 6-year waiting. That's that would be madness. But basically, we buy from a sawmill in Tanzania. Mostly, what we use is African blackwood, as they call it, or grenadilla, or as they call it in bingo. And we have that wood, and we leave it for a year at least. The flute I have on the table, which we'll try later on, we received that wood in 1996.
Wow. Okay.
And a lot of the wood, we have wood for hundreds and hundreds of flutes. From various, that's the oldest now in the meantime. But that wood stays there for a year. Then we just do, what we call rough turn it. So we turn it round because it comes in a square section, in particular lengths, whatever length you're using. And we turn it round, and then we put it in the chuck and the lathe, and then we bore with a gun drill a big hole all the way up the length of it. Then we leave that for another year. And then we make a form out of it, and you can kind of see what part that's going to be.
Right, okay, yeah.
We'll leave it for another year, that's called first turn. And then we do second turn, leave it for another year. Then we do finish turn, and leave it for another year before we cork up the joints and put the ferrules on and drill the holes, etc. Finish it basically.
Wow, so the hole's going pretty much at the latter
end,
stage, yes.
End.
Okay.
Make the head joint first, and because we do that in an engineering fashion, each head joint is the same. So if someone tries one of your flutes, you can ask what number was it, because this is now the 6th model that we've gone through, and I promised my wife it will be the last. And now it's on record. So when someone tries something, you ask them what the number is, and you think, that's number 3, that's number 5, whatever kind of thing.
Yeah. You'll know which variation of design that was. Yeah. Okay. Good. So and being an engineering mindset, you'll keep scrupulous records.
I do, because I've got the records of Boosey Prattons and the records of Ruddle and Rose, and I want to expand what they had down, because I don't know what's going to happen in the end and where it's all going to end, and I don't know whether people like myself are liking to want to look into, as I did, into the 19th century flute makers and 18th century flute makers from Scotland. So, you know, it's an amazing tradition, the Scottish flute making tradition. Very, very few people know about it. But just about every maker in the world who's making what I still call a simple system wooden flute is copying a design that John Mitchell Rose came up with in about 1814, and there's an 1816 model that he made, and I can't remember, it's either in Edinburgh, in Bristol Square, or it's down in Oxford. So one of these two music museums, if you like, and that is just, nobody's really veered away from that who makes a Ruddle and Rose style.
Yeah, so that would be really late on in the development of that style, because Boehm came in,
1850? Well, 1847.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, in terms of that design, unless you go to say Pratton or something, but in terms of Ruddle and Rose, that design was almost at its zenith, its peak before the Boehm started coming in.
Yeah, it was. And hence that Theobald Boehm came from Munich, where he was born and brought up, and where he was a goldsmith, but also a really good flute player, flautist. So he decided to make flutes as well, because he had the skills, and that's what he did. And when his flute became really popular, I mean, much in demand, because people realised this is an amazing flute, you know, and they were made in wood then. Solid wood, the whole thing made in wood, and he came across to London because he had heard and tried flutes from Rutland Rose. And he knew that the maker, because obviously they weren't both makers. John Mitchell Rhodes from Edinburgh was the maker. George Ruddle from, can't remember which county he was from in England, but somewhere in England. He was really he was a teacher and a flautist.
Right.
But he had the wherewithal to start up in London, which wasn't going to be cheap.
Mm.
And they wanted a real workshop with other people working in it.
Yes.
In that sense.
Yes.
So he put up the wherewithal, and John Mitchell Rose had the design there already, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they started up. And that design, that bore, hasn't really changed that much. Some of us have changed things over the years. And there've been in a way substantial changes from maybe one note.
Okay.
You know,
right.
But that's important nonetheless. And I'm thinking about the note E, which is quite a weak note, generally speaking.
Yes.
And a lot of people vent it by pressing down or opening up the E flat key.
Yeah.
But what that also does is it sharpens that note, so it's out of tune. But there are other ways of doing that without having to use a key to vent it.
Okay.
And that was something I discovered in 2017-18 when Model 6 was being worked on.
Well, that's really interesting because a lot of people will be quite adamant that you should be venting that key, but because that's what they've been.
That's to do with classical and the boom flute. You would automatically depress.
But even in the simple system world, people are used to that, probably because it has the effect on the flutes that they're playing. Yeah.
It's a kind of counter effect in the sense that if you think about it, so you're blowing hard to make that E heard, and you're thinking, well, I don't really want to blow that hard if I can help it. So I'll press that key, but if you blow at the same thing, it's as sharp as anything. So you have to back off. Now, when you back off with the breath, that means that note becomes quieter.
Yes.
So you gain nothing.
Yeah.
In a sense. You gain nothing. Okay, it's clear. It'll be clearer, but it'll be quieter nonetheless. So the idea was to do something else with it inside.
Okay.
And then you can make it a larger tone hole, and you can also make it louder.
Okay. Yes. I'm already guessing what that is, but I don't want to, because that's always the limitation. That the lowest tone hole tends to be really small, so that you can reach it. Because normally,
that's right.
Normally, you would be putting it further away bigger. And then you would get a consistency of volume and tone across the range, but of course you can't reach it if it's further away.
You would be lucky if you sold a flute. Maybe for the odd person, someone who's played bagpipes, which is a bigger stretch or something like that, would probably reach it. But generally speaking, most people wouldn't be able to reach it.
And that to me is one of the biggest differences between various simple system flutes is that stretch between the second and third finger, and that's what makes it comfortable or not comfortable for me to play. Is just depending how far that is. And yes, you can get used to it and you can develop that stretch a bit more, but we're all a bit lazy at the end of the day, and that's just harder,
I think as well when you look at selling things, then you look at the market, as it were, and I have small hands, well, kind of medium to small hands. So if I can play it, I know other people will be able to play this. And when you look out there's a lot of people with smaller hands as well who would like to play the flute. And if you just make it such a stretch, obviously when you're starting out, that's the sort of critical period, isn't it? You can give up on something if it's just so uncomfortable, physically uncomfortable for you.
No, that was one of my criteria when I was looking for I had bought a very cheap flute at an auction, and then I was looking to upgrade, and that was one of the big concerns because I tried other people's flutes and I knew that was potentially an issue. And shameless plug here, but I bought one of George's flutes many years ago, and one of the considerations was that comfort factor in playing. So and it well, you can tell whether my playing is any good or not if you've watched any of the videos. But it certainly works for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It makes it easier. It makes life easier, and we all want, to play music. It's it's to be enjoyable.
Yeah. So when did you set up in Scotland then? When did you come back up?
We moved back in April '86, or not back. I moved back. Utah moved here. I remember we bought the house in '84. It was just it was a miner's row, just one of the cottages in Tabrax, in South Lanarkshire. And I went back. I came over to see it. I got wind that it was from my mother.
Okay.
There's something called in a little place called Tabrax, and there's one in Lead Hills. Now it's a toss-up between Lead Hills and Tabrax, both of which are about 1,000 feet above sea level. And when it comes to winter,
and it's very open down there. Isn't it?
it is open as can be. It's moorland, and it just comes. All the trees grow up like that until they're about 3 years old, and then they gradually go horizontal at the top. So yeah, it was. Anyway, I came across to see it. It was an old mining village back in the 19th century, shale mine.
Yes.
So I went back and I said to Utah, there's only one thing about it. It's there's towering over it is this great big bing. Sorry, what is a bing? So I had to try and explain this. Not easy. There are no shale bings.
Yeah. Anyone who's not been there. It's pretty flat, and then there's this huge bright red hill, just glows in the sunshine, that's the distinguishing feature. As I was driving out to you the first time, and I thought, what's that over there? And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm like, oh, okay.
when you come from Ayrshire and you're about 20 miles from Tabrax, there's a rise before you come down to the Hindford Bridge, which leads into an very old 18th century bridge, which leads you into Lanark, and you can see that bing on a sunny day.
Yeah. It's like the Scottish Ayers Rock.
Yeah, and obviously it's not that high, and Schahalian or something like that.
But because everything else is flat.
Yes, and because of its colour.
Yeah.
This bright reddy orange. It's just you can't miss it.
Yeah.
So we used to say to people if they're coming from England and they go up the M74 and come off, just keep heading for that bing.
Oh my! So you set up there in
in
86. Okay, right. And
really set it up then. And in those days, in '86, I have to say, someone starting off in something like that, if you were sort of really interested and had a good look round, you could actually get from the SDA. Lanarkshire Development Agency, you could get from other agencies funding.
Yes.
Even from the Scottish, what's it called now, the Arts Council.
Right.
We had grants from all over the place, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not just for tools, for machines, for materials. It was, we were very fortunate.
Yeah.
Someone's starting up now. It's a nightmare.
It's harder to get that sort of funding, I guess. Yeah. But at that point, the authorities, local authorities and government were keen to get businesses going.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And of course I created another job opportunity.
Yeah.
Because my wife, I taught her how to use a lathe.
Oh wow, okay. No, I didn't know that. Okay.
So people would come in and there was this woman standing at the lathe with her hair tied back and a hat on, working this lathe, and people, you could see they were puzzled. And I just would shut the door and come out again, and I would say, have you ever heard of German engineering?
Yeah. And there's no reason, why not?
No. I mean, I would set the machine up for Utah, and she would just continue the making sort of thing. So we made things quite quick and quite a lot.
Yeah. And how did you get the word out there that you were making flutes?
Well, that was interesting on Friday when I arrived at the Flute Fling in Aberdeen, and it was Kenny Haddon that said, and I'd never heard anybody saying this before, there was a few of us having a conversation about flute making in Scotland, and Kenny said, yeah, but also it really took off because George started making flutes and people could get good flutes, and and go and try them and all the rest of it kind of thing. I'd never really thought about that those, obviously you need a flute to be a flute player, but it hadn't really dawned on me that contributed to the growth of flute playing in Scotland.
So you're making, your manufacturing influenced the playing market in a sense.
In a sense.
Yeah, in probably a very real sense.
And of course we saw that, we have seen this, or we are seeing this as we're in flute flying just now, the amount of flutes that we had made in the past. Going way back to 500 and something, you know. Model number, not model number, but serial number. Yeah.
Oh, well, there was a couple of 200s.
Was there?
I'm sure. Yeah, did I can't. Somebody had a 200 anyway.
Yeah.
Mine is not the one I had yesterday, but
no,
I've got a 401, so that's a relatively early one. But
200 is very early. That's an antique.
So did the business grow kind of word of mouth?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was that people, you know, we did actually in those days we did advertise a little bit, but what we did have was we were on inside page in the Scotsman. That was when it was a good paper then, and the Glasgow Herald. So that kind of covered Scotland in a way.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be, you know, I'm in the Highlands here, but
you're in P&J country.
Yeah, I know. We did actually do one for P&J.
Oh, right, okay.
And it was in the front page. I was in the front page with two people who was teaching at Kemney school.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was those things. People came. The Living Tradition did which had a decent circulation. Did a 3-page article on us, and then the Scots Magazine. There was a lot of that, and of course that kind of spread. People down south would get the Scots Magazine.
Yeah.
It would be left, and this is a story that actually happened. It would be left in a surgery waiting room, a health centre waiting room. Somebody picked it up, looked at it, and thought, that sounds interesting. And he was one of the organisers of a festival near Oxford called Art in Action. It's no longer in existence, but it ran from 76 to 90 something, or 2000 and something maybe, I think. We were asked to come down and demonstrate, because you could not just land with your wares and stick them there with a price list kind of thing. Yeah. You had to demonstrate. So they got me a lathe. Where I could make things on, and also a gas cylinder so I could make the keys. Key making there as well.
Because it's not just about the wood.
No, that's right. No, it's the silverware. The silver work is quite a lot of it actually. When you get an 8-keyed flute, an awful lot of it really. It's the key work then. But and it spread kind of thing, and then we went to places like Germany for obvious reasons. We were both fluent in German, so there and France and Holland and whatever. Sweden.
So how big a spread have you got geographically in terms of your customers?
Geographically, we've got customers in New Zealand, Australia. We've got customers in Africa, different places. We've got customers in Brazil, Japan, China, obviously the US, Canada. In the meantime, I can say all the European countries. Maybe not Estonia. We haven't cracked Estonia yet.
There's still a market to go. There's still room for expansion.
We're looking at it.
Yes.
But maybe not at this moment in time. But yeah, it's very, very widespread. And some places are there's a sort of rise in interest in it, sort of thing. And like Poland at the moment, there's a rise in interest in Ormiston things, largely whistles, I have to say. And then in other places, and for a long time there's been an Ormiston flute, they call it, it's nothing to do with me, really. There's an Ormiston flute club in California with 21 members.
Wow!
And I just think, 21 flutes? I'm not sure about that.
That's a complex chord. And that's nothing to do with the instruments. That's
an orchestrated chord.
Yes. So yeah, a global reach.
Yeah,
Really?
very much
Yeah,
so. I
yeah.
mean, the world is a small place.
Well, it is, and we are in
coin the phrase,
yeah,
really.
we are in a global environment. For
People
sure,
come. I've
marketplaces.
had people come from Japan. Now they've made a whole holiday of it.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
the main thing was to come and look at flutes and try them out. Or from the US, from other places, lots of places. There's one of the chaps at Flute Flying Joel, and he came out. He was across in Scotland, and can't remember what it was, but there was something he was doing anyway. Some get together. I can't remember. Anyway, he basically emailed me prior to that and says, I'm interested to look at flutes. So he came and we met up in his hotel room in Glasgow, where the conference was taking place, and he tried the flutes. Can I buy that one? I said, yeah, that's fine. So,
brilliant.
So
was that just now?
No, that was about 6 years ago,
okay.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. But yeah, one of the things that I've felt about you was you were willing to go out of your way and say, I'll take flutes to you and show you, which was really helpful.
Yeah.
At that stage of my development.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good. Good customer service, we would call that. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because there's two things about the business that people often say. It's a bit like maybe selling something online and you're asked for feedback kind of thing. And what comes back to us in an email form or through someone else sometimes as well, is that the flute is really lovely, but the service was also great. And that to us, because that's what you and I are looking for, that whenever we buy something. We don't always get it, but we're looking for it. Indeed. And everybody's looking for that.
Yeah.
And I don't see why we never ever really, okay, we did this to earn a living, but that was really all what it was about. We were never really looking to make an awful lot of money and have shares and all that.
Yeah.
Lava. Yeah. So it's worked out really well. We've put our daughter through music, and now she's a.
It must be a disappointment that she's not a flautist, though. She's a very accomplished violin player, I know.
Oh, she is. But briefly, I got the chance way back in the midst of time at a festival, and there was other stands there as well. We had a stand, and a chap said, "I've got a wooden flute. Would you be interested in it?" And I said, "Yeah, maybe. Show me it, and I'll have a look and see." It was a wooden Broom flute made in 1901.
Oh, right, okay.
And you can say, well, how come it was made in 1901 where it's Broom? But there's a bit there where other people were doing different kind of systems. But the main thing was the bore was 19 millimetres all the way down.
Yeah.
So cylindrical bore rather than a conical bore. And I played this, and it was leaking a little bit, but I played it, and I thought, when our daughter, who was just a baby there, grows up, she'll want to play probably a classical flute, So
right.
I kept it.
So you invested in it, yeah.
So I invested in it, and he said, "I'm not really all that interested in the money. What about swapping out one of your keyless flutes or something like that?" I can't remember what the deal was, something like that. So he was from down in Yorkshire somewhere. Anyway, either way, I ended up with that, and she never blew it once. I failed miserably.
Failed. It's okay. I'm just checking the camera. Yeah. Okay. But but she is a very accomplished musician, as we know. So that must be some slight relief.
Oh no, I'm pleased that I'm pleased when anybody takes up music or anything in the arts, to be honest with you, as a career. So you had the business going in Turbrax, and then you moved to Bo'ness. Yeah, the business was doing well, and it was providing the wherewithal to move.
Yeah.
And we were moving on, let's just say in years. And we thought, we could do actually, because it was what was it now? A 16-mile round trip to get a pint of milk.
Yes.
And we thought, slowly, we could just do without this.
Yeah.
So we thought we should move into civilization.
Okay.
And someone flagged up that there was a house in Bo'ness.
Okay. Yeah.
and there was also a bit of a garden, not terribly big, but there was enough to build a workroom on,
Okay.
in which I put a small lathe as well for doing some things. But we needed a proper workshop for the other machinery. So that was in Broad Street in Stirling,
Okay.
in a shop, what had been a fish and chip shop.
Oh, right.
The floor was quite greasy. Anyway, either way, we cleaned that and we put the machines in and had the workshop there for probably a year and a half or something, not quite sure. During part of that being COVID. So maybe, whatever it was, 2 years maybe. And then we decided we really need to move, so I went to West Lothian Council, and they have units in Linlithgow.
All right. Okay.
So we managed to get near the palace. we managed to get this. We managed to get this unit, so it's and it's great because people can come on the train from Sunday Express line from Edinburgh to Glasgow.
Right.
And people can come from other countries, land in Edinburgh,
and
take the tram into Edinburgh, get off at Haymarket, get on the train, come up from England, whatever.
Yeah.
Take the train out to Linlithgow. We'll pick them up at Linlithgow station, and then bring them out, let them try something, and then take them back.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I haven't been to your new workshop,
Oh,
so
you
that
should
would be
come.
interesting. Maybe that's a supplementary video.
Well, it's nice to see it. I laid the floor for it. There was carpet down, but no. You don't have a workshop with carpet.
No.
So I laid a laminate floor, and it's easy to keep it clean.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
all of that, it's lovely.
Yeah.
It's a great workshop, and it's only 10 minutes from the house. So
okay, that's not bad at all.
fine.
So it's not a bad commute.
No, it's not. I mean, I'm not desperate to move from it. If something did come up in Bowness, I would be interested. But that's fine.
And what's the position of the business now? You mentioned that you're
moving
on. So is the business still going in the way you want it to go, or what's the?
Yes, well, yes and no. I had a change of heart last year. I had a brother who died last year in March, and he was a luthier, and he never took orders. He just made something, and when it was finished, then he just put it up somewhere, put the word out. I've got this.
Interesting business model, but okay, yeah.
Well, it suited him very good because he was laid back.
There's less pressure that way, I guess.
Well, that's exactly it. And I was for some years now thinking, this selling bit is just, the making is fantastic, but then the making's affected by it as well. You've got the pressure of a delivery date because you're giving someone in writing. Yeah. And I never liked to go over that delivery date, it didn't leave a good feeling when that would happen. Yes. And that was beginning to take a toll on health. And I could hear my brother's words echoing in my head, So I thought, well, let's try that. And it seems to be working fine. Okay. Still get the same turnover. Yeah. So it's fine. But the other thing is, that also is in my head, and most people who get to my age, I'm sure, well, most of the people I know, they're younger than me, they're all retired. And there's no law against it.
It just seems so unfair.
It does. So we took a lot of time off this year, you and I, for the first time. And we've been to a lot of different places, different countries. Ah, good. And we just thought this has been fantastic, really nice. So we thought we'll try and do that every year then. Yeah. And that will mean probably producing less flutes, obviously, because less time will be spent in the workshop. Not sure about that one, but we're just saying to people, well, I'm not taking an order from you. I will make a flute, and I'll let you know when it's finished. Okay, yeah. Unless it's an existing customer. Okay. And I say that because I'm making a flute now for someone who's down in Cornwall, and I think he's bought something like 8 flutes from us already. And also a head
just
joint.
Just note to my wife, there are people worse than me. Okay.
So anyway, I said, I'm not taking a deposit from him, but So I've stopped taking a deposit, so effectively stopped taking an order, but I have it in mind and I will make it. And so long as it's not something really special, which we ask for payment up front for,
Yeah.
because it's something you might never sell, then yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, good. Good. And you had somebody working with you for a while, is that still?
Well,
the
that's
case?
right. Yeah, we had Sean Gray, who was in the Paul McKenna band, and he's not long recorded a CD along with Tina Jordan Rees.
All right. Yeah.
He's a guitar player in a way, but he played flute for a long time as well.
Okay.
And he came, I think when he came to the workshop, he was 16, and he came with his father, Jim, who's a guitarist and singer. And as Jim and I talked, I noticed Sean moving around and picking up tools and just kind of holding them, and looking at them.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him what was he going to do when he leave school, and he said, I'm not sure. And I said, if you can, get an apprenticeship in engineering, which is what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't add the thought that was in my head that will stand you in good stead for making flutes. Anyway, so he did that, and he did his apprenticeship, and he came to work with us. He'd left then. By then he had gone, I think, full time in music then.
All right. Okay.
And later on then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's sometime in his 20s. Yeah, it must have been his early 20s, and he came to the workshop, the odd day kind of thing, whenever he could, make it sort of thing. Yeah, and he now, I would say Sean now knows everything he needs to know, what he desperately. This is just from me, I'm not saying from Sean, his perspective might be different, but there needs to be some financial help for people to start up with these things.
Yeah, because, starting up or taking on a business is actually a big, huge commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Probably more so now than it was when you started out. Yeah.
John Mitchell Rose had that. He got that from George Ruddle and his family. Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's always been a thing.
Yeah.
I think it's
now
it just seems that there's with business rates and the price of electricity and everything seems to be going up and up and up.
Yeah.
And a lot of businesses, just established businesses, are struggling these days. And that'll come in waves, obviously. But yes, it must be hard starting out.
Yeah.
But you're right. It was always hard starting out.
Yeah, that's right. And the other sort of side to this as well. It's quite funny, the story with Sean, because he was born and brought up about 14 miles from where I was born and brought up.
Oh wow!
Yeah. And like me, he did serve an apprenticeship in engineering, and like me, he left that to go music and play in band.
Yeah.
And like me, when he was abroad, he met this German girl. And she moved to Scotland.
That's a bit spooky, that one.
Yeah. So he's as I say, it would be nice, because when you go beyond, John Mitchell Rose, I think, was born in 1793. I think. Is that right? What I'm saying? I think something like that. Yes. No, 97. 1797, because he was 23 in 1816. 93, sorry, 1793. Yeah. And he needed that backing. But there were flute makers in Scotland prior to him.
Okay. He's the one we remember, but
he's the one we remember, and then Gordon is the other one that we really remember people write about, because he was the man who said, this Dave Alboom, I've got the same design on my flute. Okay. And there was a lawsuit, as the Americans would call it, about it all. And one way to kind of get around it sounds incredible. Well, I don't know whether it does in this day and age. It sounds incredible, but Gordon was effectively certified as insane.
Wow.
So the whole thing collapsed, the whole case collapsed, kind of thing.
Wow.
So we don't know.
Yeah.
And in a way, as flute maker, or flute player certainly, it doesn't really matter. The main thing is we have good flutes.
Well, yes,
You
yes,
know.
but it's a fascinating side
It's
story.
a fascinating,
Yeah,
and then there was, I've got something like another 5 names written down at home, where I did an article at some point, down through the many years, and I came across it recently, and there's all these other names of Scottish flute makers, you know, going back.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite amazing.
Yeah.
And then there was a great big lull, for some reason, both in the well, interestingly, both not only in flute playing in Scotland, but flute making. And you could say, well, surely the two go somehow hand in hand.
Yeah.
To a degree.
Yeah,
You can buy flutes elsewhere, we all know that.
Yeah. But I mean, but by the time Rose moved to London, then there was probably at that point it would have been harder to buy a flute from London if you're sitting in Edinburgh
I don't know
than it
so
is
much.
today. Because
know.
today you've got the internet and you can just go, there's a flute in Zambia that I want to buy, and it'll get shipped across. But it was different back then. It was harder to. I'm assuming it was harder to get things, to know what you were buying and getting it sent up.
Well, I think then when somebody said, I've made a good flute, they were so honest you could actually, this might sound odd in this day and age, I think it was taken as read that was the case.
Yeah.
And when people were playing these in orchestras, and orchestral players wouldn't be playing a duff instrument, so to speak. So they certainly came up to Scotland, plenty of them, because you do come across them. From way back in the 20th century, and even the 19th century that were made. Well, you don't come across them now. If you find a Riddle and Rose or a Boozy Pratt, it's pretty rare.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Just go to Flute Fling, see a couple of them.
I mean, in a junk shop.
Oh yeah, yes.
Although we did have a customer who bought one in the Barrows for £5, a Boozy Pratt.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was not only a Boozy Pratt, it was a Hudson Boozy Pratt, which are quite rare.
Right. Okay.
And I did the work on it, and it sold for a lot of money.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Gosh. Interesting. So coming back, so you've got the business, you're in the workshops in Linlithgow, you say? Yeah. And then what's the future hold? You've come into this new phase of the business. You're actually acting in it in a bit of a different way.
Yeah.
Where do you see you and the business going?
I think last year, towards the end of last year in particular, I saw me kind of giving up, and sadly I said that in an interview, and it went up on YouTube.
I heard rumours about this, but I didn't.
And everybody says, I heard you, and
you heard it here first, folks.
It was my mistake, but sometimes you just say things in interviews and then later on you think, that probably wasn't the best idea, George. Anyway, either way, I think through this new approach to this year, there's I wouldn't say a second wind, but there's certainly a new enthusiasm.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
And of course I have this model which came out in 2019, this latest model, and I really like it, and because for a while I actually played fiddle and mandolin, just all the time, in a couple of bands, and you just think, get back to because it's an effort to play the flute. It's very easy just to sit with a mandolin, and I hope there's no mandolin player.
Well, there will be.
It's so easy, you don't need to blow your brains out with it.
And as for fiddlers, they've got it easy.
No, that's difficult, because it's a difficult stance. Anyway, either way, I'm very much into playing again.
So well, since you have an instrument here, what is it about this model that you think is a game changer?
Well, one of the probably biggest one, there's a few, but probably the biggest one is on the wooden flute. You have this E note, and as we touched on earlier on, it's pretty quiet. Now it's stuck between. It usually has a diameter of 6 millimeters, and if you do the surface area of a circle of 6 millimeters, The one above it is 11 millimeters.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah, and the one below it is 10 millimeters. So when you go between, let's just say, bouncing on the bottom hand between the F sharp and D, and you put an E's in between all the time, so F sharp, E, D, E, F sharp, and so on. This E note kind of sort of not completely disappeared, but it's just so much quieter. And that was one of the main things, was to get the E and the A a bit louder.
Okay.
The A was not really a big deal. The E had to be approached in a different way, and that was successful after realising what had to be done. That was successful. So you now get one where it's better than, the hole is bigger. It's now a 7 millimeter hole.
Okay.
But there's also other.
Percentage-wise, that's still quite a big change.
Yeah, it is.
Doesn't sound much. Just
I know if you say that, that's 1 millimeter. Surely that can't affect. Well, going for the pudding.
Yeah.
And then what's happening inside is different as well, machining-wise. So that gives it more as well. So I was really pleased about that. Because I love tunes in E minor.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're using that, it's,
Yeah.
So that's all of that, I think, has contributed to having a new sort of kind of association with the flute and flute
That's
making.
brilliant. Yeah.
And I've no inclination to stop making. Obviously that will happen at some time physically and whatever, but who knows? Who knows what the future holds? But yeah, and I would still love to, to pass it on. I've had lots of people come to me, and there's never really been anybody that was, I think, would really have cut it, kind of thing, which is a shame to say.
I think, well, we were having a discussion yesterday about instrument makers in general. For me, both guitar and flute makers, and it's that level of precision and dedication to getting that precision consistently, and that's where your engineering background.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
Because although, and again, having a brother who made mandolins, mandolas, sitterns, bouzouki and guitars, so they're quite different. You come from a mandolin to a guitar. So they're quite different, but the tolerances on the flute, on the inside, we work to 0.075 of a millimeter.
Yeah.
To get it, and each time we know that that'll sound the same. So when someone does try a flute, that model range, then we know what you get will be the same thing.
Yes.
And you still get people sometimes who say, "Yeah, but will my flute be as good as this one?" And I can see why people would say that.
Yeah, because it looks like it's a handcrafted. In many ways, it is a handcrafted instrument, but it's handcrafted to a level of precision that is an engineering thing. Yeah,
that's right. And it can't not sound like that. Okay, you choose a different wood, boxwood. I've made some recently in boxwood, and I'm going to be receiving a shipment of olive wood.
Oh, right, okay.
And that will be an entirely different instrument. I know that because I've made 7 whistles in olive wood, and they're very different from the African blackwood one.
Okay.
So that's another kind of interest. Then you become there's a rise in your interest again, kind of thing, through things like that.
Now let's talk about the dark side for a moment. Then let's talk about those whistles. I think you once told me you didn't want to become known as a whistle maker, but you made whistles. Yes. Is that still a fair comment?
Did I say that? Well, I suppose yes, but I would add to that was at a time when people approached me, "Would you make whistles?" And I said, "No, thanks." That was at the time when you probably only had the Generation and the Clarks, these 2 whistles, and I defy anyone to say they were really good whistles, but hey, depends what you're interested in. But Cesata came out with a whistle, and it really broke the bank, kind of thing, and not in money terms, but it was just whistles just took off.
Yeah, it was loud.
It was
It
loud.
had a
It was
plastic
in tune.
sound, but it was in tune.
It was
Well,
in tune.
I've got one that isn't. But anyway, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, but and it was easy to pick up and play, and you didn't have to worry about it because it was plastic.
It was great. The cross-fingered C, the troublesome note in the keyless flutes or whistles, that was really spot on. You know, you could even play. I'm not sure actually. I can't remember. It's that long since I played a Susato whistle. Certainly in ours, you can play C natural. And what would effectively be the third octave, if you like, on a flute, and it's in tune.
Mm-hmm.
So things like that, you know, it was a really in tune instrument and that. And to be honest, a lot of people, I've got a different bow in our whistles, but a lot of people copied the Susato, as people copied the Ruddle and Rose, you know, then made little.
I think for me,
changes.
the Susato is perhaps that is too plasticky a sound, too sterile a sound. It's good, but it's too sterile a sound. So for me personally, I like the aluminium ones from another manufacturer, but yours are wooden, so they would wooden. I would imagine, I haven't played one of yours, but I would imagine it's got a warmer sound.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I can play that at the end of this. I've got two. I brought a black wood and an olive wood whistle with me.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. And you can hear instantly these are different whistles. They're not engineering wise, they're exactly the same because the whistles are made to the same tolerances so that you know when somebody buys something.
Yes,
but likewise they have gone through a bit of a change, so you know the current one, which has been current for maybe 3 or 4 years or something like that. I think we've only been making them for about 11 years.
Okay.
As much as I can remember. And things just, well, if there's improvements to be made, then you make them.
Mm-hmm. No, but you are. I think you're building a reputation for your whistles, but slowly, but quietly.
We're selling a lot of them.
Yeah.
And shops there's a shop down in London called Just Flutes, and I had someone come up from London recently, and he said the owner of the shop tells me to pass on the message to you, get some of these whistles down here. Which is nice, yeah.
You don't have to go to Just Flutes though, although they do have a website. George has a website as well. Okay, so that's interesting. You're still experimenting with different woods, and to me it's obvious that it would have a different timbre to the sound. Just as much as flutes. A lot of flutes are a long time ago made of boxwood, as you mentioned boxwood, but the different woods will all have a slightly different colour of sound to them. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, and some people like that. We made, I think 2 years ago, a low C, in the sense that when you put your 6 fingers on, the note you get at the bottom is C, and I made that for Hamish Napier.
Okay.
And he just loves the sound of it and loves playing it, you know. And I'm particularly fond of that flute. Its proper name is the Flute de Moor. It was originally from France, and it would be keyed in those days, so it went down to B flat.
Yes.
And it would be an 8-key flute then.
Yeah.
But the boxwood, it's just, again, it's a different sound. It wouldn't suit everyone, but it's very nice.
Okay. Excellent. Well, that's been a potted journey. Do you want to give us a demonstration on the flute?
I will do, yes, and I'll go and fetch these 2 whistles that I've talked about.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the olive wood, and of course it's absolutely, it goes without saying it's gorgeous looking, you know.
blackwood one, you hear it's kind of probably got a slightly crisper sound,
clarity,
slightly sharper, but not in tone, but in clarity. The olive wood one still got that great sound, but it's just that slightly mellower feel to it.
Yeah.
And may I just?
Aye, that's sure.
Yeah, because quite large holes in a sense for the size of it. Which is great.
I know.
Because then you get control.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Really nice. So and those are available through the website? Or?
That one's, I've got 3 of these I think with me. No. This one's not for sale, the other 2. I'm not playing the ones that are for sale kind of thing. I keep the silver. I've 2 for sale basically. Okay. 2 of these. I'm keeping this for myself because it's the last one. The other 6, I made 7 as I said, and I've sold the 6 of them quite comfortably. And I'm just keeping this and hoping that this, this consignment is going to be whistles and the wood is going to be whistles and flute. I'm more absolute. I mean, the whistle's fine, that's great, but I'm really interested in the flute, making a flute out of old wood.
Yes.
I've never come across one, and it's not to be something different or that, but just for me, sound wise.
Yeah, it'd be really fascinating to see what the difference is, because still the volume and the tone, just the slight difference in clarity, but that's a good thing. Yeah, it's not the one's better than the other.
No,
it's just
right.
It's different nuance to it.
Yeah, people have got different. Some people wouldn't go near a Chinese restaurant, and others wouldn't go near an Indian restaurant, but whatever, it's different, isn't it? It's how you feel yourself, what appeals to you, in other words, as an individual. I like both, and I can appreciate, and that's the thing about a maker. This maker certainly doesn't have preferences. Just make a good flute, make a good whistle. It's up to people, they'll choose one or the other kind of thing, and that was one of the reasons for making something else. I did think about boxwood, but boxwood's kind of, will it warp? It's got a tendency to warp, Well,
that came up in a discussion last night,
This is incredibly stable, and you pick you need the kitchen scales, probably something fine.
I'm just looking at the bore. It's quite a wide bore as well. Hence the large hole sizes.
I've taken it down a bit. I've taken it down from 12.7, which was a kind of standard bore for a lot of other makers, down to 12.1, and then I thought, no, I'm not quite happy with that, so it's 12.3. And again, this is done so precise that is what it is. So each time when you're doing the scale then and the sound, so both the sound and the fingering is going to remain the same. If somebody picks up something else's whistle.
So one of the things.
So you can really hear that once you start to kind of get it up and running kind of thing, and you get yourself up and running with it then at the same time. That lower bottom hand then is, it's complete then kind of thing, because your E is so much stronger. Than dare I say it, the standard flute, And my version of an Irish reel called the Hunter's Purse.
Okay. Oh wow. Well, anyway, I think we should probably call it a day there just now for this time, but to be continued perhaps. And thank you very much. It's been a fascinating tour through your history. So
thank you.
Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're
Great.
welcome.